Hey everyone, Kyle Mike here from MLive.com. Joined by Justin Rogers. Another tough game for the Detroit Lions. Dropped to 0-3 on the season with a 24-12 loss, Justin. Not a lot to like from this game, I think. Maybe some growth from the defense, but just not enough again from the offense. Special teams were a wreck. And now this season really is seriously on the ropes for the Lions.
Yeah, offense, I mean, it's kind of the same problems and stories we've been talking about all year long. Offensive line, still a mess. Play calling, still a mess. And after preaching patience, I think, with Joik Bell, I'm at the point now where I'm wondering what the plan is with him. More carries than Abdullah tonight. That's unacceptable with the way those two are playing right now. And, Bell struggled down the stretch, and I think it, played into the loss.
I know there was a lot of complaints about them going back to the well with Joik Bell and the two-point conversion that failed. Just to note, Matthew Stafford said after the game he checked into that run, so that's not on Joe Lombardi. But obviously 10 carries for 6 yards, not enough. Lions on the day, 28 rushing yards. They had their worst rushing day in 4 years last week. That was 38 yards, 10 yards better than what they did tonight. It's just not enough for the Lions rushing game. And I blame Joik. Joik doesn't look the same. He looks slow, not hitting the holes hard enough. Seems to be some hesitation back there. But even Abdullah's not getting it done. And I still like him a lot, but I think it's just the problems up in the offensive line. And you look at all the fluidity that's up there. You have Cornelius Lucas starting the game, and then Waddle's out there 3 series later, and then you've got Warford leaving the game, so you have Emmanuel Ramirez sliding to the right side. You've got Laken Tomlinson coming into the left side. That's a lot of change to an offensive line that's already struggling, and I mean, that's just a recipe for disaster. We saw the results.
Yeah, 2 things. One, Abdullah, being the good teammate he is, refuses to blame the offensive line. Said the running lanes were better this week than last week. Said that he and his running backs need to do more. I disagree, but I understand where he's coming from, being a good teammate, trying to put more of the onus on himself to get better. 2, it felt like every time the Lions went to run the ball, the Broncos were all over it. Bradley Roby had some interesting post-game comments basically saying, they ran exactly what we thought they were going to run, and we were able to counter that, and that's a really damning quote.
It's damning for Joe Lombardi. And, Jim Caldwell was asked after the game if he thought this offense was predictable. He said no. Same thing with Matthew Stafford. They've said things before, but the thing is that they're not going to say, yeah, we're predictable. Like, it's something that you have to read for yourself, and the results are there. It seemed like everywhere the Lions wanted to go, the Broncos were one step ahead of the Lions, and the evidence supports that in the rushing game. Stafford was sacked 4 times. Just
5 more.
Not enough from the offense. And again, and they just struggled. And even when they did something right, even when they scored, Calvin had that great final series in the first half, Justin.
Yeah.
That just a great grab to snatch it out of Akeem Talib's grasps there on what would have been an interception, 45-yard pickup. Then he has a great catch on the right sideline. Then he has the pass interference call in the end zone. Basically, single-handedly sets up a touchdown for the Lions. If they pull even, except Prater misses he has the extra point blocked, and then Peyton comes right back the other way and torches Slay, and now you're down 14-6 as opposed to tied 7-7. When you have an offense as poor as the Lions, you can't afford plays like that and game-changing plays like that, because you just can't keep up, and that's when the Lions just put themselves in a hole they couldn't dig themselves out of.
Yeah, that touchdown at the end of the half to Thomas over Slay was almost in a lot of ways identical to what we were just talking about, Calvin ripping it out of Talib's hands. Thomas kind of ripped it out of Slay's hands. Slay didn't have as much of a grip on it, but I look at that play, and that's the one play until the final drive where I say, okay, the defense failed. And Slay was actually in pretty good position. He had inside position, and I think he just poorly timed his jump. Maybe Manning's ball had a little bit more on it than he thought. I thought the defense played well. I did. They stopped the run. That was the number 1 priority. I thought that the Broncos really struggled running the ball. I thought they got a decent amount of pass rush pressure. I feel like Peyton was being moved off of his spot a lot, which is how defensive lines often look at success, is getting the quarterback to move. Peyton Manning's not a mobile guy. To get him to move, although he did make some nice throws on the run, they broke up a lot of passes in the secondary. Outside of Slay giving up not just that one play, but a second big play, I thought it was a really good, promising performance from the defense against a pretty, prolific, historical quarterback.
historically, maybe not this season, but the Broncos came into this game with the worst offense in the league. So you would have expected a step forward from the defense with the Lions. And to their credit, they did that. I thought they did a lot better job. We've seen the intermediate passing game be a problem for the Lions in the past. Phillip Rivers and Teddy Bridgewater just peppering them to death. The thing that I liked is Manning completed 31 passes, but 324 yards on those 31 passes, and only 24 points, 7 of which were on that, at the very end there. I thought it was much better from the defense, at least containing the damage. You've got Glover Quinn with another pick, which helped on when they're scoring opportunities. And they did all this without Ansah playing very much in the second half. So I thought it was a pretty promising effort outside of the couple of plays that beat Slay from the defense.
Yeah, Devin Taylor I thought responded really well to what will amount to a benching last week.
Yeah.
But I do want to pop back to the offense because I feel like we've kind of glossed over Stafford. Got a lot of pressure today. I mean, I felt like Von Miller and DeMarcus Ware were renting apartments in the backfield, back there constantly. I thought Stafford played all right. I know he threw the 2 picks. I thought they were incredible defensive plays. He was doing what I think so many of us demand that he does. Try to get his ball to his playmakers. Try to get that one to Calvin Johnson. Try to get to Golden Tate. They were tight windows, no question. But his clock is off right now.
Yeah.
He's being asked to make decisions quicker. Even when the pass rush pressure is not there, he's anticipating being there because it's so consistently bad up front. The fumble, that's on Stafford. That was a terrible play. He held onto the ball too long. But, what was he, 31-44? Somewhere in that ballpark.
31-45.
Yeah, some really nice, accurate passes, some nice deep balls. Got away with the one that Calvin snatched out of Talib's hands, but it could have been a lot worse day for a quarterback under that much pressure, hurting that much coming into the game.
The Lions preached all week how they had to be better offensively. They come out in the first play of the game, and Joik Bell's hit 3 yards behind the line of scrimmage, loses 1 on the play. Second play, DeMarcus Ware, ever heard of him? Unblocked. Second play of the game. Like, we saw something very similar in the offense last week, where it was the first play, there was so much miscommunication between Ebron and Tate, you still don't know who that play was intended for. And then in this game, second play, it's the same thing. Like, how do you leave a man like that unmarked? Not just a man, but DeMarcus Ware. Yeah. That's just bad mental space, bad coaching. I'm not sure, but that should not happen at any point in the game, particularly that early. That man's got to be marked. And then second series, exactly the same thing happens, where it comes unblocked again, hits Stafford for another sack. So yeah, he was on his heels all the way. Got hit quite a bit. He looked better after the game. I think health-wise he emerged okay, which is optimistic for the Lions. But yeah, it was another long day for the quarterback, and you have to wonder how much of a beating he can take, how long he can do this week in and week out with the kind of pressure that he's seeing, because he's seeing insane amounts of pressure. I have no idea what the Lions are doing at right tackle. I don't understand the move to start. If Waddle is healthy enough to be active, then why isn't he starting ahead of Cornelius Lucas, who has been the worst player for the Lions on either side of the ball? And then not only that, but you take Lucas out after 2 series. I mean, you knew what you were going to get in Lucas, so why do you take him out after 2 series and putting Waddle in? It's just a lot of fluidity up there, and it's causing a lot of problems, I think, for the Lions.
Yeah, Waddle knew he was going to play coming into this game. I talked to him after, and I think at that point they just kept rolling with him because I guess he proved capable, and they kept checking on him during the game, see how his body responded. Feels good. I mean, he wasn't perfect. He was going against Von Miller, who's going to be perfect. That's a dangerous man. But he was better than Lucas, and I think they got to go to Waddle going forward from here. I imagine that he'll start the next game and be the starter as long as he stays healthy. Exactly.
Yeah. We've talked offense and defense. I thought coaching was poor in this game, not just Lombardi either, but I mean, you've got a blocked PAT, you've got the failed 2-point conversion, you've got there was what was the third point? Oh yeah, the penalty on the 53-yard field goal attempt for the Broncos, which gave them a mulligan. They missed the field goal, gave them the mulligan, and then they hit from 48 yards. It was a 2-point game at that point, Justin, and that's a 3-point penalty. It's a huge play in a game like this, particularly when you are so challenged offensively. And then they had this bizarre timeout in the first half. We never actually asked Caldwell about it, but 60-yard field goal attempt from the Broncos. The place was berserk at that point. It was loud. They might have picked up a delay of game, and the Lions called timeout. Just a lot of mismanagement, I thought. Stupid penalties that really cost them. Not to mention the turnovers. A lot of that stuff goes on coaching. I didn't think that's a very good performance from the staff.
Yeah, there was a blocking miscommunication on the PAT. I believe Cornelius Lucas missed his assignment. It was interesting watching Eric Ebron on the sideline during that, because he pulled Lucas aside and he gave him the business, and that's unusual for a young player to get in another guy's face. And whatever, Ebron's not a perfect player at this point, and far from it. But I saw this leadership mentality from him, which I thought was very interesting, very passionate. He was right, and he was pretty heated about it still after the game. Said we practiced that all week. I don't know how we messed up. The call you already talked about, that checked in by Stafford on the 2-point conversion. And then the field goal, there was a lot of confusion, guys scrambling in and off the field. Slay came on late. Slay was the guy that got called for the penalty, being the last guy in the overbalance line, which is now illegal. Said he's never heard of the penalty before. That's a problem.
Yeah, that's a problem.
If that guy's on special teams and he doesn't know the penalty exists, that's a coaching issue.
It's a Slay issue, but overall it's a coaching issue. You can have a guy in that position on those teams. Yeah. And Caldwell admitted that after he said it was a coaching error, which of course it was. And we're seeing a lot of coaching errors. We're seeing a lot of errors on both sides of the ball from the lines at this point. The season, go to Seattle for a Monday night game next week, coming back home to face the Cardinals, probably the hottest team in the league right now. It's a long uphill battle for this team. They're just not doing enough to wade through it at this point. They're just not a very good team at this point.
They literally have to win the next two. Yeah. I mean, and that's a. Well, I don't know what the final scores of those games would be, but I looked at one point, like Seattle and Arizona were combined something like 60-7. I mean, they annihilated their opponents today. They're both hot. Tough sledding.
It is, really is. We'll be all over it this week as the Lions try to regroup, figure out a way, because there's still talent. I have no doubt that they're going to win some games this year, but it's a tough 5-game
stretch. Not 16 again?
Yeah, I don't think so. But they got to figure out, they have problems on both sides of the ball, particularly on offense. And they'll try to sort those out this week. For Justin Rogers, I'm Kyle Mink. We are MLive. Keep it right here.